Today we have Mary Liberty Trauber and myself, Amanda Poe. We are two HR specialists that work here at Cardinal, and we will be presenting information on the newly updated I-9 form. You may submit your questions during the presentation, and we will address as many as we can at the end of the presentation. So, without further ado, I'm going to pass the reins off to Mary.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're going to be learning about the newest version of the Employment Eligibility Verification Form, also known as the I-9. It's so important to stay knowledgeable on the changes to the form and the practices surrounding employment verification. We already know that there will be more audits in 2017, and I think we can anticipate even further enforcement with new administration beyond that. So some important things to know. On July 8, 2015, the Office of the Chief Administrative Hearing Officer charged an event planning company with more than 800 I-9 paperwork violations and slapped them with a fine of $605,250, the highest ever assigned at that time. But in June of 2016, Broich Orchards in Washington found themselves paying $2.25 million in civil penalties after an Immigration and Customs Enforcement audit found the employer hired employees who were not authorized to work in the United States. In August of 2016, the government increased the fines, making it more important than ever that employers ensure hiring processes are compliant. Some penalties are nearly twice what they were. A single paperwork violation and first offense may only cost you $216. A second or third fine can cost you up to $2,156. But if ICE determines that you intentionally hired unauthorized workers, the maximum fine is $16,000 per violation. And just 2 weeks ago, Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa introduced a bill to raise the fine to $25,000. So your choice to learn and stay knowledgeable in the I-9 process will save you money and grief in the future. So let's go over some of the changes that you need to know about. Some general changes are that the new form is dated November 14th, 2016, and it expires on August 31st, 2019. You'll see those dates displayed on the front page of the form. The form itself is now separate from the instructions and includes the list of acceptable documents. So you have the 2 pages of the form and the list, and that's pages 1 through 3, and they used to be, on the old form, they were pages 7 through 9. As of January 22nd of this year, only this version of the I-9 may be used. So make sure that if you have any of the older versions that you get rid of those and don't use those again. Also, there is now a printable version available and a smart version. The smart version, as you're filling it out, will prompt you with drop-down menus. So it assists you in filling out the different blocks. And if you try to leave one blank, it will naturally put in an N/A. And then just an important reminder that you should be making the instructions available to every employee who fills out this form. So let's start with section 1. Again, all the boxes must be filled. So if you're filling this out by hand or having an employee fill this out by hand, they'll want to use N/A if there's nothing to put in the box. So if they have no middle initial, no email address, they'll use N/A. Another small change is the box that says other last names used. It used to just say other names used, and sometimes people would put a nickname or something in there. So now it's more specific, so they know we're referring to only the last name. Another thing to keep in mind is that the middle initial is the first letter of their second name. So if they have 2 first names, you would use, well, for example, if the first name is Mary Jane, then on the form, the first name will be Mary and the middle initial will be J. Now, another slight change that it's hard to even recognize, but below the employee's signature, there's the gray box. It's always been there. But now you see a box and it says, I did not use a preparer or translator. One of these boxes must be checked on the form. So make sure you're auditing the form after the employee fills it out, because a lot of times they're going to sign it and then hand it to you and think they're done. So they do need to go into that gray section and mark one of those boxes. If you assist the employee in any way with completing this form, you have to sign it as a preparer. When you are filling out this section as a preparer, you use your home address, not your business address when you're completing this. If there are multiple people helping preparing the form and you're using the smart form, it will automatically create another page for you that will allow the additional preparers to complete the form as well. And now, Amanda, I'll have you start with section 2.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. So there were only a few changes to section 2. And at the top, what you'll see is that the employee name at the top of the form must match exactly as the employee entered it on section 1 on the first page. And there's actually clear, distinct boxes now for their last name, first name, and middle initial. There's also a new box on the right-hand side where you'll need to enter the employee's citizenship or immigration status. So you may use the corresponding number from page 1, or you can write out the full description. However, it's much easier just to enter the corresponding number. There's also an additional information box in the middle of the page now. This is an ideal place to document things such as employee termination dates, form retention dates, tracking receipts in lieu of documentation, comments or notations for audits. These are all things that historically we were forced to notate in the margins of the previous versions of the form. Instructions for this section are far more comprehensive than before and accounts for many of the additional pages in the instructions. So don't let this intimidate you, as it's mostly repetitive information. It's very important to know that if you, still on this slide, I do want you to know to be patient for the new handbook because it has not been published yet. The most recent version was published in 2013. This is publication M-274, which is the 70-page employer handbook. And we will notify you via our newsletter that goes out once a month when that publication is issued. So now let's move on to section 3. It's very important to know that if you do a re-verification or rehire of an employee whose original I-9 is on the old form, you must use the new form to do the update and attach it to the original form. Be sure to include the employee's name at the top of the page also. So that pretty much sums up all the recent changes. Like Mary mentioned earlier, we anticipate more changes under the new administration and legislative session. So we will definitely be notifying our clients when the revised employer handbook is published, and we'll keep you informed of any future changes via our free monthly newsletter. If you would like to sign up or know of a fellow colleague who should sign up, just visit our website. Our free online newsletter is published once each month. And so now we're going to move on and facilitate any questions you may have submitted. Looks like there are a few. And Mary, the first one is, do existing employees need to complete the new I-9, or is this a going forward with new employees change?
No, you don't need to do anything right now with existing employees. The current I-9 that they have on file will suffice.
Okay, let's see, the next question. If I am a business owner and I'm helping my new employee fill out the form, is it okay if I list my business address in the preparer section instead of my home address?
Now, if you're filling out that preparer section and you've assisted the employee in filling out the I-9, you need to use your home address and not your business address.
What happens if the employee makes a mistake, like forgets to check a box in the preparer section, and I don't realize it until later?
So only the employee can fill out page 1. If you notice that something's been omitted or there's something that's incorrect, sometimes people will put in today's date for their birth date or vice versa. So you would need to have the employee come back and either complete the form, or if they're correcting an error, never use whiteout. They will draw a single line through the error, and then right above it, the complete or the corrected information, and then initial the change. And then that's a good place where you can, with that new box where you can put in additional information, you can write in there the reason for the change and what happened.
All right, let's see, we've got lots of questions coming in. Let's see, do I have to fill out section 3 if I rehire someone, or can I just have them do a whole new I-9?
Either way works. If you want to do a new I-9, you can, or you can just do section 3 where you fill in the rehire date and you make sure that their ID is still valid.
All righty, let's see. The 15-page instructions. Do I have to print this out for each individual employee that we hire, or is it okay to provide it electronically?
It can be provided electronically, and you do not have to print out a new set of instructions for every employee. If you just have a set of instructions available, that is sufficient. If they are available electronically, you need to make sure that the employee can access those on their own as needed.
Alrighty. When re-verifying an employee, is there a time limit just as before? Example, 2 years from termination date?
As far as I know, it's the same. I would suggest that you submit that question to the web address that we've given you, and we can check on that to be sure.
Okay, looks like we have time for one more question. We have several locations, so which address should we enter in section 2, the corporate address or the physical work location for the worker?
Either is acceptable, however, you should be consistent. And I do recommend that if there were to be an audit, which address would you like the USCIS or ICE to address? That would be the most appropriate address to put in there, but be consistent.
Awesome. Looks like we're coming up towards the end of the webinar now. So thank you everybody for attending. These were all great questions. Looks like there are a few more questions trying to come in, but we've come to the end of today's webinar. So please do give us a call or submit your additional questions anytime online at www.cardinal-services.com/askhr. And feel free to browse our website for many other valuable HR topics. Thank you again for joining us today, and I hope these updates were helpful to you. Have a great day.